keeps going in and out. Teams have 15 minutes to present. The teams are used to this. I see we have guests. Welcome all of our guests. And who am I missing? Boom, that's everyone for Impacteers. So we have 15 minutes for presentations. It's easy to keep track of time since we're all online. And 5 minutes Q&A. We will defer to faculty first, but anybody can ask questions. Please, Dave will help moderate through the chat. If you can at least go there, at least raise your hands or throw a question in the chat and you can unmute to ask. But without further ado, we can dive in. So we have 5 today. We start with Impacteers, all clear, then fiplay, then activate, and then React. And React has an NDA, so we'll be cutting the stream for that one. But Impacteers, whenever you are ready.
All right. I guess we'll start. So good morning, everyone. We are Team Impacteers, and this is our final presentation. So our goal this semester was to create an experience that can inspire African American students in the age group of 13 to 15 years old to think about STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics as potential future career paths. To give you a brief overview, we'll first start off with a general introduction. Then we'll talk about the walkthrough and the design. Next, we'll talk about the feedback and iteration, and last, we'll talk about our learnings for the semester. These are the team members. Mike and Brenda are the faculty instructors. Damola and Wale are the clients. While I talk about Damola and Wale, we thought it would be a good opportunity to show you the ending video from our experience, which is dedicated to them. So this is a father-son duo of engineers, creatives, and entrepreneurs with fascinating backgrounds and accomplishments. Together, they founded and run the company Toys Electronics, which is focused on providing resources, opportunities, support, and education to young adults. Damola is an internationally known rapper, an engineer who was first inspired to become an engineer by watching Knight Rider and becoming enthralled with the idea of a self-driving car. Wale, who you see on the screen right now, is a prodigy who joined CMU at the age of 15 and graduated with a degree in electrical and computer engineering at the age of 20. He is a former employee of Electronic Arts and currently works as a software engineer. When he was young, he pitched the idea of smart glasses, which is something that we use in our project. So talking about the deliverables for our project, our first deliverable for the semester is our Unity project itself. This is because our client is looking to extend the project and connect it to his content and brand. Second, we are delivering an Android application, which is currently up on the Android Play Store. It is in the open testing phase. Talking about the metrics for our project, first, because this is a client-driven project, fulfilling client requirements is a very important aspect for us. Next, we wanted to create an interactive experience that is driven by the user. And last, our goal is transformational. So building an experience to achieve that transformational goal is also a very important factor for us. So I'll give you a brief introduction now of the entire experience. So our experience is minigame driven. It has an overarching storyline, and as part of it, the player must complete several different minigames. The premise of the storyline is that your father is the superhero, the great deity Da. This is a superhero character that was created by our client, and it was an important reference for us to include in our story. The main plot of the story is that your superhero father and you are working on an autonomous electric vehicle, and he invites you to fix it while he's off on a mission. In order to fix the car, you must complete multiple mini games. As a result of completing these mini games, you earn badges that go towards completing the STEAM word. Depending on the nature of the mini games, you will earn the science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics badge. Once you have collected all the badges, you effectively complete the game, and then the ending cutscene and the ending video that you just saw will be played. So, just a quick recap. We have a minigame driven experience. Your father is the superhero who invites you to fix the car while he's off on a mission. And when you fix the car, you complete mini games and you earn the Steam badges. Next, Peter will talk about the walkthrough and design.
Thanks, Ren. Now I will walk you through the experience and talk about some of the design choices we made along the way. This is the living room. It is the first main stage you will be in, and when you first open the game. As you can see, you can look around the scene by rotating your device, and there's a news playing on the TV talking about some tech breakthroughs your dad has made. We put a lot of real-life posters, including some of the clients' favorite autographs from famous rappers in the scene to make it as authentic as it can be. When you enter the garage/lab, you will see a drastic shift in color tone and art style. It is made in this sci-fi and futuristic style to give players an immersive feeling that matches the settings of the overall experience. When you first enter the lab, you will be greeted by the voice message left by your father, the superhero Great Didi Da, who asks you to start your mission, fix and upgrade the car. You can rotate the camera around the car to look at it from different angles, and you can actually enter the car by tapping the sign on its door. Here is the interior of the car. It is where the core gameplay of the experience starts. You are in this main hub, the car interior, when you can go to different minigames to complete different challenges. Each minigame represents different badges, and when you finish all 3 of them, you will collect all the badges which lead you to the ending scene. So after you finish all the minigames, you will be prompted by this ending cutscene. And as you can see, the car is all light up and ready to go. Congrats, you finished the mission. Following this cutscene will be a short conversation between you and your father. And after that, there will be the ending video that was previously shown during Ram's introduction. Now I will hand it over to Z, who is going to talk more about the details of the 3 minigames.
Thanks, Peter. I will talk about more mini experience design and tech implementation features. So for our first mini experience, it is a number puzzle game, and the objective of this experience is to find the shortest path that connects from start to end, and the answer number is also provided as goal at the upper left corner. So for the actual interactions, players will have to tap on the blocks they want to use and drag it to the destination ground. And they are also offered a rotation button to rotate the blocks, a clear button to delete the block, and a reset button to clean all the blocks. And in this experience, all the numbers are randomized. So each time when players play this, they will have a totally different puzzle to solve. But inside the code, there is a diecast algorithm running each time when this experience is loaded, and it will compute the answer first and provide the goal number for the players. Then it will constantly check if the path is connected. In other words, if the blocks are following certain rules of some combinations, and at the same time, it will also accumulate the current sum number and compare it with the correct answer. If the path is connected and the number is correct, players will pass this experience. And when players do pass this experience, they will unlock the badge of science and mathematics. For our second experience, it is a rhythm game, and players will have to tap the channel when the corresponding blocks drop from top to the scanning line. And players will receive a result for each block based on how precise they hit the block at the scanning line. Since it's a rhythm game, the block dropping is designed following different instruments from the music playing, and the music is provided by our client. The total experience is 2 minutes and a half. However, if player wants to hear the full song and see the lyrics, there will be an option for that at the end. The bitmap design for the rhythm game is reading a timestamp file. The number represents the time passed from the music starts. So to create a rhythm game map, which is the total data of when to drop a block we only have to record the data of at what time of the music we want a player to tap. The code will read the timestamp file and automatically drop the blocks to match the data after calculations. And after this experience, players will unlock the badge of arts. For our third experience, players could freely design the future glasses. They could read and choose different features to add to their glasses, and the interactions is simple. Players only have to choose the features they like and press confirm to go to the next choices. And after player finish these interactions, they will obtain the badge of technology and engineering. Now I'll pass to Yifan talks about iterations and feedbacks.
Thank you, Dee. I'm going to talk about the feedback and iterations. So here are some feedback that we receive after halves. The first one is we need to understand our client's intention about how to use the final deliverables so we can hand over to them in the most appropriate way. So we decided to launch the Android application on Play Store for broader deployment. The other one is the ending video is not coherent enough with the overall game narrative. So we utilize the ending video to indicate the game is based on a true story. After deliver the final product to our clients, here are some feedback that we received. Demola mentioned that he really enjoys the design pieces that are authentic to their personal life experience. And Wally said he highly values the ending video to show the true story of father and himself. Our team did in-person playtest with 10 African-American students from STEAM coding lab, including observation and interviews. So here are some feedback, which is the positive feedback, including the storyline is easy to understand and the rhythm game is fun to play with. For the negative feedback, some playtesters have problem with the game mechanism of the numbered game. For example, they cannot understand the game UI, and they have difficulty in put the block in the right positions. In order to polish the game experience, we use the drag and drop interaction and also add instruction for guidance. And Aubrey will talk about what we learned.
Thanks, Yifan. Next, I'm going to talk about what we learned from this semester. We learned and reflected based on our experience for this semester from 4 main perspectives. First, when facing a particular demographic that is unfamiliar to us, which is African-American young adults in this case, it took us significantly longer time to get to know their interests, habits, and accessibility to the hardware. Also, STEAM education for middle school age is not so familiar to us either. It took us longer time for us to understand their current level of STEAM knowledge and the most influential way of them to absorbing new knowledge. Second, we learn about making the design iteration in order to seek the balance among joy, curiosity, and challenge. We would like to convey the knowledge of STEAM in a way that is fun to play with the right level of difficulty. We also like to promote the curiosity of kids so they can keep looking into the discipline that interests them in the future. We learn to combine the game and storytelling experience together according to our client's requirements. Our client would like us to take this opportunity as a prototype of a transformational product of its own company. Thus, we had the mission of taking their real-life experience into storytelling parts of the design and mix it into the game so that kids are able to be inspired by the story at the same time they're enjoying the game. Third, we learned about being more aware of the team skill set that the choices were lacking of artists. With better understanding of the skill set, we will be able to choose the most suitable approach of the design. Last but not least, we learned about managing our time more effectively. With uncertainty of the approach, we spend longer time on finding the balance between our ideal design and the design that fits with our skill sets the best. Also, early researching stages cost us too much time to get prepared for the actual build at earlier stages. Last, we would like to say thank you to Ricardo Washington, John Dassler for playtesting and providing valuable feedback to us. We also like to say thank you to Evelyn Glaze from Assemble and Casey Midland from STEAM Coding Lab for their help with setting up the playtest. Also, would like to say thank you to our client, which is Demola and Wally, and our faculty instructors, Mike and Brenda, for their support and guidance during the semester. In conclusion, our goal is to inspire African-American students in the age group of 13 to 15 years old to think about STEAM as a potential future career path. We're using a mini-game-driven experience with a real-life experience-based storytelling to promote this goal. Thank you, everyone, and now we are open to questions.
Okay, great job, team. Congratulations. Any questions, throw them in the chat or raise your hand and Dave will call on you. Thanks, everyone.
John, go ahead.
So in playtesting, you have to open up your Android and allow you, trust you folks, really, is what we had to do. Thinking back now, is there another way you think you could have playtested or worked this in retrospect? Is there something else you could have done maybe?
So talking about the playtesting, we had two approaches. The first one was that, like you mentioned, we asked the students or the kids to sideload the app because it's not on the Play Store. So that's option one. And the second option is that we do in-person playtesting, which is what we ultimately had to do because teachers are not flexible with allowing kids to install application from unknown sources. Looking back, I mean, since we are in a COVID driven world right now, it's probably better to just push the application on the Android Play Store, even though it's not complete yet, and do the playtesting through that. If COVID was not a concern, then in-person playtesting would be the way to go, because then you can have your own devices with the application loaded, and in that, if you do that, then you don't have to worry about side loading the app on someone else's device.
Thanks.
Ralph, your question?
Jesse has a question too, I think, too.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Who's going? Jesse or?
You were first, Ralph.
All right. Thanks. So yeah, you mentioned on one of your slides an unfamiliar subject matter. Were you talking about teaching STEAM, or were you talking about just the demographics you were unfamiliar with?
So the question was, were we just not familiar with this particular demographic, or we're not familiar with middle school STEAM awareness either? Actually, the answer would be both, because we're not so familiar with African American young adults from the age from 13 to 15 years old, and also we're not familiar about how much they have been learned during their middle school experience about the STEAM education. So like how much they know about science, how much they know about technology, engineer, art, and mathematics. So we want to make the games in the right level of difficulty and curiosity, so they don't feel bored, but they are also feel it's not that easy for them to get to the right answer or the right reward. So that's biggest challenge we faced earlier in the semester.
Great. Thank you, Aubrey.
You're welcome.
Jesse?
Can you talk a little more about your transformational goals, and do you think you achieved them, and how do you know?
I guess I can take the question. So the question was, how do we know that we have achieved the transformational goal, and just a little bit more about it. So the transformational goal, as you see on the slide, was that we wanted to inspire African-American students to take up STEAM as a potential future career path. And our strategy for achieving this goal was to create experiences, mini games that can spark their curiosity in these fields. Now, talking about whether we were able to achieve the goal or not, I would say that is a little bit difficult to say. And that's because we had a tough time getting playtesters because of the challenges that we mentioned earlier. For the playtesting that we did do, we found that the students did enjoy the rhythm game, and they also did like spending time trying to figure out the numbers game. So with those things as you know, like as evidence, I think maybe we can say that we have somewhat been able to achieve the transformational goal. But again, I mean, that is sort of a gray area for us.
Jesse, we're actually going to be doing a play test with Christine on Thursday with me and Wale at the Boys and Girls Club at Oakland Park.
Great.
So we're trying to figure that point out, actually. And we've sent some of the links to some of the students we've worked with or some of the education organizations we've worked with before. Your question is very pertinent. And that's part of why we try to get it on the Google Play Store to see about if you make it digital and make it accessible, how do we get it into that target market? It's a huge issue. And Drew would like this and Mike would like this. We're trying to actually, there's some students that we brought to the ETC that are very excited about this. And one of them is even interested in actually attending, being a student. So we know that this actually works. He has great grades and this experience. So it's more of trying to get what we've done as in person into a virtual experience, working with Drew, Mike, Brenda, the great team and the great work, and seeing if that's possible. I'm really curious to see if that question could be answered. So hopefully on Thursday, we'll get good feedback.
All right, thanks.
All right, everybody, that's time. Thanks so much. Thanks to the team. Good job. If you all can turn your cameras and mics off, we'll get you out of spotlight. And then next up, we have all clear. If you can turn your cameras and mics on, I can find you. Okay, where are you? There's Max.
Cool. I think everyone's here, so let me just quickly share my screen.
Hold on, I don't have everybody spotlight yet. Just a sec. I'm
Okay.
getting there. Last one. All right, you're good to go, Max.
Cool. Let me just do the magic for sharing the screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, so hi guys, this is team allclear, and this is all the team members. And we have Scott and Tom as our instructors for the project. And our clients are Jessica Hammer, who is also a ETC faculty, and also Pete Hill. So just some overall information about our projects. So the motivation behind our project is due to the fact that there are loads of unsupervised landmines left over on Earth each year. And most of current demining solutions can be really expensive. So our client pitched a possible alternative solution, which is e-demining. So instead of deploying living demining personnel and trained animals, we actually use remote demining robots to remotely clear landmine fields so that we can cut down a lot of intermediate costs and also reduce the casualty rate, which is something we really want to avoid. And for this project, actually, there are three main goals from the clients. So the clients mainly want us to create something that can raise the awareness of demining issue to the audience, and also to help players envision how e-demining can be a possible solution in the future, and also to foster the cooperation among players on the demining tasks. So in the end, our team created a cooperative multiplayer game where two players need to work together to clear landmine fields with robots. And our game is going to be heavily game focused, which means the team is not going to make a simulation software here. We are not teaching anything like real tactic or knowledge about real world demining. And also the clients are going to use this project as a pitch project, which means this is not going to be a release product that we are going to post on the Steam or on any app store. So our clients are mainly going to use them as a pitching tool to reach out for possible future funding opportunities. And of course, we use the Unreal Engine 4 to make this PC game due to its good network model and fast prototyping capabilities. And our target audience mainly have two groups. The first groups are gamers who are interested in the strategy games and who like online cooperative games. And the second group of people is the people who are interested on the demining issue itself. Maybe they want to see how e-demining can be a possible solution in the future, or they are just interested how like demining can be a valid topic in the gaming world. So with that all being said, let's first take a quick look at the walkthrough for how the game actually looks like.
We are showing you the second level of our game. In this level, you and your partner need to clear all the landmines in the village using the robots you made so that the displaced brothers can move back to their home. This is the overview map of the level. You only have a limited number of batteries for the robots to run on, so you and your partner need to find an optimal playing strategy. Players usually had discussions about who should control which robot in this turn, or how to assign batteries to different types of robots in the most efficient way. Now we'll start the actual demining with the detection robot. Mingtan uses the ground-penetrating radar and the metal detector to search for non-metallic and metallic landmines respectively. He places red exclamation marks on the ground to share the positions of the mines with his fellow player Neo. Now it's time for Neo to remove these mines using the digger module in the removal robot. You can see a green flag when the mine is successfully removed. Players can switch to another robot when needed. Neo now switches to the support robot to remove the vegetation that hinders Mintan's demining process. We made 3 levels with progressive complexity, and players need to collaborate closely to figure out the right demining strategy accordingly. In level 1, there are a large number of mines buried next to each other. Setting off one mine may get rid of other mines at the same time because of the chain explosion. Therefore, an efficient way to clear landmines is to detonate landmines on purpose, while keeping in mind the location of robots and staying in the safe zone. However, the same strategy won't work again in level 2 because detonating mines in the village would destroy houses near them and fail the mission directly. Players are encouraged to use the digger instead. In level 3, many players were surprised by the different random weather events we added and had to adjust their strategy accordingly. Now we'll talk about how we meet the 3 goals Max just mentioned before. The first goal of our game is to raise people's awareness of landmine issue and demining, and this goal is achieved through the narrative design of our game. The game is set in a fictional post-war period because in real life, the existing landmines are mostly leftover mines from wars. We designed our player characters to be 2 roboticists, and they remain silent in the game to help our players better identify with them. But still, in order to involve our players into the stories, we created a smart drone character as players' emotion proxy. This drone talks with other NPCs and reacts to their words for our players. As for the stories, we did some research and portrayed the 3 aspects of the bad consequences of landmines: physical and mental injuries, displacement, and the deprivation of resources. For example, in the second level we just showed you in the demo, players and the drone meet Noah, who escaped from the shelter, and his elder brother, Kane, who is looking for Noah everywhere. And then the drone will offer to help them clear the landmines in their village without detonating the mines near their houses so that they can move back to the village and rebuild their homes and lives. After players successfully clear all the landmines, Noah and Kane will be very grateful for the help and extremely excited to move back. Our players found our stories heart-touching, and the demining experts we're in touch with also found the story to reflect the real-life demining scenarios very well. By showing the horrible consequences of landmines and how these negative effects can be mitigated because our players' demining effort in the game, we hope our players can empathize with these NPC stories and thus become aware of the importance of demining. Next, Tian will talk about the design decisions we made to achieve our second goal.
Sure. So our design serves to gradually introduce the vision of e-demining. For example, in level 1, we have a simple mission and a simple forest environment to start with. Players only need to use the detection and removal robots. And in level 2, the residential area, we train players not to set off anything nearby constructions because that might cause real danger. And in level 3, with the desert environment, we introduce random events and add more variety and challenge of e-demining to the game. Many players were surprised by it and have to adjust their operation accordingly. With all the 3 levels, we let the players experience the powerfulness and the possible limitation of e-demining. And we also use UI and UX design to keep strengthening the vision of e-demining. For the technical map interface, we give players a perspective that's full of control. They have control over the battery system, which are the action points, the robots, and they also have a top view of the whole map. Players have the freedom to plan and strategize with demining robots. And then for the 3D interface, we have a first-person view. We use the interface to let players believe that they are the operator of the robots. And we help them to understand the robots they're controlling, the amount of battery that's left, and how they're supposed to get their operation down. Next, Neil is going to talk about how we fulfill the third point of our game.
Thanks, Ting. So in order to foster cooperation among our players, we made a lot of design choices and implement those features in our game. The first feature is that we make a lot of resources shared to both of the players in our game. First, the battery system is shared between players. As the battery is used to activate a robot, battery is the most important resource in our game. Players need to share them and decide the assignment of batteries before the start of each turn. And also, players have access to all robots at any time in the game. Instead of letting the player choose a robot or assigning them a robot at the beginning of the game, we let players to experiment with all types of robots so they can understand how each robot works, so they can cooperate better with each other. The second feature we made is that we gave different robots different capabilities, and we encourage our players to control robots of different types and work together to clear landmine fields so they can complete the goal more safely and efficiently. One example in the game, as you have seen in the video, is that players switch between 3 different types of robots to remove the plant, then detect and mark the mines, and based on the mark one player's made, the other player can remove the mines successfully. Last but not least, we also add some cooperative minigame in our gameplay. One example would be in our third level, our robot can be damaged randomly by the weather, and this in order to fix the damaged robots, the players need to go through a minigame. So in order to fix the robot, they need to connect the circuit in the correct order, but from the one players need to control the damaged robot, and from the damaged robot side, he can see the correct order, cannot actually operate on the circuit. While on the other player's side, he can actually operate on the circuit, but cannot see the correct order. So the players need to communicate with each other and follow each other's instruction to complete the game successfully. And next, meantime, we'll talk about some changes we made based on the soft feedbacks.
Thank you, Neil. We have made many improvements and changes thanks to the awesome feedback from our playtesters. One of the biggest challenge of our game is with so many features implemented, the game can be hard to learn, which is why we decided to add on this video tutorial system. So before introducing a new mechanism or features, we'll have this video tutorial teaching you how and when to use these specific functions. And the second challenge is with such a big map and various paths to achieve our goal, the players can easily get lost, which is why we add on this transparent map function where you can hold on a key and have this transparent map overlay on top of the player screen so you can have a better sense of where you and your teammates are currently at and which direction you're going into. The third feedback is for players who want to play anytime, because this is a networking game using a dedicated server, we need the server to be hosted on a local computer machine, which means the players cannot join at any time, which is why we decided to host this on an AWS virtual machine, where the virtual machine will be running the remote server 24/7, so players can join the game at any time, making the ecology of a game more robust. Next, I'll talk about the hands-off to our clients. So we'll be giving the game executable, sound resources, art assets, design docs, source code, documentation, and as well as AWS virtual machine. So we provide our clients the tool to make a video with, to demo with, to play with, and to potentially further develop with. Now back to Max.
Yeah, thank you guys. So I would like to, as the producer of the team, I would thank you all the playtesters who came into our playtest due to the fact that we have completed a setup, as Mingsan just mentioned. And thank you, Jessica and Pete for the semester-long guidance. And also thank you, Scott and Tom for the detailed weekly faculty meeting. And just a recap. So we are Team Upkeep. We created a cooperative multiplayer game where two players need to work together to clear landmine fields with robots. And clients will use it as a pitching tool to reach out for future funding opportunities. And we are open for questions.
All right, great job, team. Congratulations on finishing your final presentation. Any questions, throw them in the chat or raise your hands and Dave can help moderate.
Go ahead, Ricardo.
Yes. So, quick question about the mini games. So your game featured a lot of cooperation in the main game. How did mini games? What questions about cooperation did the mini games answer that your main game loop didn't?
So I think why we add minigame is that in our main game, although we encourage our players to work to cooperate with each other, it is not like a forced. It is not a forced operation. You can still, like, one player can still switch between like different robots frequently to complete the goals. But like the best way to do it is like through the collaboration of two players. But in the mini game, it asks our, like, if you don't like communicate with each other and like collaborate with each other, you can never like complete the mini game. So that's where like the mini game kicks in. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, it runs well when you guys host. If you host the server and then you're able to have a really successful session. Have you done this where you're not involved, where the client perhaps is the one running the server and giving instructions? And are you going to keep in that crutch of infinite batteries? Because that also helps as well.
Yeah, to answer that question, so currently actually the team plans to actually move the dedicated server onto the AWS, the Amazon server resource. So technically there's no need for anyone to manually set up the server anymore, because like the AWS virtual machine will run like 24/7, as Minsan just mentioned. And as for the infinite battery system, I think we can leave that backdoor hotkey there, but you know, like we will ask the clients like this Wednesday, which is our client meeting, and to see how they feel about it. But yeah.
I've got a question about how the client will use this to pitch. Do you have a sense of what are the major talking points that the client will use from this project as part of how they're approaching this?
Do you guys want to talk about it? Otherwise,
We actually have talked with a Geneva NGO group that is dedicated to demining. And I think our client is going to present our game as a pitching tool to the NGOs and also various organizations. So to see if they are interested in the game and for potential future funding for more e-demining opportunities in the future. I think that's where the client's looking at our games.
Cool. Jesse, you have a question?
Yeah, now that you guys have spent some time looking at this, this whole question of e-demining, do you have a sense of, if you had to guess what year it's going to be realistic for people to remotely be using robots in a group way, kind of like what your game envisions? Do you have a guess about what year that might be realistic?
Actually, I can take on this if you guys don't mind. So actually, during our meeting with the Switzerland demining group last week, actually from them the team know actually the demining companies and organizations around the world are actually already deploying this kind of solution. But the purpose of their demining machine is not used to demining. It's mostly used to doing the veggie removing process and the some detonation process. So the current or the real world demining robots or drones cannot perform very intelligently in terms of digging and detecting, because that involves a lot of objective decisions and something like this. But in terms of fully deploying the demining solution, I'd probably say it will come out when the deep learning's big picture comes out, because deep learning is quite
well. I guess I'd say, setting aside the AI, just the idea that you could set up a situation where someone shows up at a minefield and then unloads 20 little remote control robots, and volunteers on the internet control them in order to solve the problem. Right, that would be a quicker way. That would be a way you don't need to rely on the problems of AI. Do you think that's do you think that's realistic within the next 10 years?
To be honest, it's just my personal opinion. If Jessica is here, maybe she will shout at me. But I personally don't think that's going to be very possible in the next 10 years due to its cost efficiency. Because because the idea is pretty good. We use remote robots to do the e-demining, but the fact is the robots themselves cost a lot, right?
Yeah.
Especially for demining robots that can be trusted for operating such dangerous and calculative tasks. It's going to cost a lot, and people are. Oh my God, it's not politically correct, but I'm going to say this anyway. People is usually cheaper than those kind of robots, right?
Okay, that's terrifying, but thank you.
Yeah, sorry for saying this, but it's just company decision, not me.
Okay, on that note, we're at time. Sorry so much. Thank you so much, team. Good job. Congratulations on your finals. If you can turn your cameras and mics off, we will unspotlight you, and then we'll get fiplay up and ready to be spotlit. So fiplay, turn your cameras on and I'll find you and spotlight you. All right, that's all of you. Whenever you are ready.
Sure. Hi everyone, we are Team fiplay. This is our team. Our advisors are Ruth and Mo. Our client is Skip Cromwell from Seculous. Seculous is a New York City-based company that combines finance, hip-hop culture, and technology to help create the first financially successful generation of underprivileged students. Based on our client region, our target audience is underprivileged high school students in New York City. The problem for the project is that they need accurate financial knowledge and they don't trust financial tools. Our client region for the project is to teach financial knowledge to the students, including the banking knowledge and investing knowledge. Also, our client provides us helps in editing stories and sharing demographic informations and some references about New York culture. So based on the background, our project goal is to create an educational game to transmit financial knowledge, including the budgeting, banking, loans, and investment, also including storytelling elements to help them use financial tools and building connections with the communities.
I'll talk about the design process. Based on our project goal, here is how we design the interaction systems for the target demographics. In order to get across educational messages to high schoolers, we put all the financial concepts in context, which is managing a bodega, instead of lecturing on screen. The management system also has progression and rewards to keep students engaged and motivated. We want to make financial topics relatable to the target demographics. High schoolers should not feel intimidated interacting with banks, and finance is relevant to their daily life. So we designed a down-to-earth community and included the storytelling elements. Here's a demo of the bodega management. The player needs to check customer demands and manage inventory and storage space, manage bill payments. We also have upgrades in the game. They need to learn budgeting, try to make profits, and grow the business. Here is how I integrate story and game mechanics together. The game is round-based. Each round, the basic interaction is bodega simulation. We have a story chapter every 6 rounds and 10 topics in total. You can select a male or female avatar at the beginning. Uncle is our mentor. We have 6 supporting characters. They will introduce financial concepts to the player. The customers also need help from you, and you can complete their help quest. Here's a demo of how the dialogue looks like in the game. We cut off dialogues for demo purpose here. This is round 30, when Tristan introduced community donation to you. We build an authentic community, and the player can support the community when they get rich.
So we made a lot of iteration based on feedback from Haves, softs, and playtests. So at Haves, the main feedback was about managing our scope. We had a lot of features because we want to teach a lot of different financial topics. So we addressed this by cutting features that we hadn't implemented yet. For example, we had planned to have a personal and business account, but that would have required not only extra development time, but also extra tutorial to help players navigate 2 different sets of money. So we scrapped that. Also, we made sure to plan out our work on the most important part of the game, which is the story, which delivers the educational content. So we split our story into 5 essential chapters, which introduce the gameplay mechanics and teach the core topics, and 4 optional sections, which teach other important cultural topics that the client really cares about, but that we would be able to cut if needed. And then thanks to the story tool, which we'll talk more about later, we were able to make all of those at the end of the day. The next big question was whether we were designing effectively for the target demographic. So we answered this through playtesting. We did a number of playtests with the target audience. Skip organized 4 playtests with us, 1 session with high schoolers and 3 sessions with middle schoolers. And the playtest went well. I mean, the the students engaged with the game. They wanted to succeed in it, and they had fun with it. The main problem we noticed during playtest was scaffolding and usability. The UI was confusing at points, and players initially had a hard time figuring out the main game loop, understanding that going to the next month is basically doing a turn, and that it's a turn-based game, and that's when time passes. So we really expanded our tutorial to emphasize those points and help players get into the routine, because once they did 1 or 2 rounds of the routine, it basically was really easy to memorize, but making sure that the tutorial sent them through those paces the first time was really essential. We also redesigned the bodega environment to make it more authentic to real bodegas. And the other big thing we focused on was reward feedback, giving the players satisfaction and consequences for their actions. So for example, on the next slide, we have our graph page. This page is maybe the most important page in the game because, as John told us, this is where you see everything that you've done. Essentially, you see all your sales and here, and basically this page is sort of the only page where time passes. So it used to be a line graph, which was kind of exciting because it went up and down, but it was a bit obscure in terms of what actually happened and when it happened. So we switched to a graph page so that players can get the essential information without, being distracted by like extra elements or information they don't need. And so they can really feel a sense of reward when they do well and understand the consequences of their action and their choices in the game. So at soft opening, we got additional feedback that our visuals needed to look more authentic in a lot of cases. So not only did we redesign the bodega again, but we also had to adjust our 3D models. So we used a lot of found 3D models to build our environment. And in particular, our character models were not matching the sort of characters that we wrote, and they were also not matching the 2D avatars, which you'll see later. So we retextured the models in order to match more closely with those constraints. For example, here's the uncle. The original textures looked very casual and like a younger character than we intended. So we retextured it with some more, professional clothing and like changed the hair and the face to make the character look older, because the uncle should be like a mentor figure who's close to retirement. In addition, we also made small adjustments like changing the order of some pieces of the tutorial to get rid of a big stumbling block, and reversing the colors of the graph page so that they better reflect like positive and negative. Basically, we had green should be positive, but it used to be a negative.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about the programming-wise achievement. So our game consists of 2 major parts. Simulation about managing the bodega, and another portion is learning financial knowledge through different stories and dialogues. We have 12 stories in total and lots of dialogues. We were also working closely with our client on story contents, so we often needed to modify story's interests. Therefore, we implemented in Unity story editor for designers and developers to easily create and modify stories. Next slide, please. So the key point for the story mechanism is when to start showing dialogues and showing different sentences when the player is in different status. Something would be like the player needs to first talk to the uncle in the bodega, then go to the bank to continue the story. So we divided each story into different story sequences. Each sequence has a trigger condition, an NPC list, dialogue list, and a reward. The trigger condition could be either talking to a specific NPC or clicking buttons. When the story sequence is triggered, it will start showing dialogues between NPCs and the player. The sequence also has the list of NPCs so that we can update NPC's position and also set dialogues for NPCs between different sequences. When the dialogue is finished, the story manager will check whether the current sequence has a reward. For example, a reward could be unlocking a button on the UI. The entire story is finished when all the subsequences are done. So the dialogue system is using scriptable objects so that the designer can easily create and edit story assets in Unity's editor. It turns out it really helped us to create new stories, especially when we initially only has 6 stories and we doubled them at the end.
So for the game art design, our project is a combination of 2D and 3D game. We use 3D models to build a game scene, and the main gameplay are in the user interface. Next, please. This is our mood board. We got inspiration from some pictures of hip hop culture and finally decide our color card. Next, I will talk about our UI UX design. Here are all of our UI, and I will show our budget interface as an example. Next. So this is our initial budget interface. Very boring background and confusing graph. Our user experience is mutually linked. We use Bodega's inventory system as the main mechanism. The banking system, stocking system, and donation system is the auxiliary mechanism. And then the budget system as a link between them. It's kind of a challenge for us. So we have modified our UI design many times. Next, please. This is the first version of our budget interface. We have adjusted the color more in line with the color card. And we have added the credit card bills in the budget interface to make it as convenient as possible for the players. Players can choose which bills to pay by credit card or next month. Then the credit bills will decide which to pay the minimum balance or current balance or other amount. After that, the Bodega interface will the budget interface will recalculate. And finally, the payment back button can be selected. Next, please. We also separate the graph from the budget page and try to let the players know the function of the graph, which is to let the players know the monthly income and expense of the Bodega. Next, please. This is an example of our avatar design, which is using in dialogue system, and it also has been modified and polished for many times. The reason we use 2D avatars is to make it clear to players who is speaking. If we use 3D head portraits, there will be an interface disharmony problem because all the UI elements are 2D. Therefore, for the harmony of the game interface, we decide to use the 2D avatar. We also want the 2D portraits to be as similar as our 3D characters as possible, such as the style of clothes, haircut, and so on. So we changed so many versions. Next, please. According to the previous introduction, our player first need to master the operation mode of the Bodega and then learn to make a monthly budget to make the store profitable. After players play 6 rounds and earn some principal, he or she will trigger the banking system. Then the game will teach players the basic functions of the banking system through different rounds gradually. When the player is familiar with those functions, the stock system will be triggered to convey a financial concept to the player. After the player have a certain amount of wealth in his hands, he will finally enter our community donation system. We are hoping to convey a spirit of contributing to the society. Next, please. For the icon design in the game, we have also carefully selected and polished it because the choice of our game color card is gradient color. So we simplify the icon to make the game interface looks clean and fresh.
So for the deployment by the requirement from our client, we're going to deploy our game as a web-based game. So we prepare to build the game on WebGL and embed it with HTML template. Our client will ban his own domain name with the WebGL build on AWS service. And our team will also provide support tech docs for further development.
So at the end, we would like to restate our project goal. We create an educational game to transmit the financial knowledge about topics such as budgeting, banking, loans, and investments, in order to help underprivileged students take advantage of financial tools to improve their lives. So we are welcome questions now.
Okay, good job, team. Congratulations on finishing your final presentation. Any questions, just put them in the chat or raise your hand and Dave can help moderate.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I have a question on the playtesting. It's really good if for playtesting, you can give the testers your application and say, keep playing as long as you want and see how long they can keep playing. I'm not sure if you were able to do that to see if any of the students kept playing afterwards and if anybody got to you around 15, 20, 25. Did they have the ability to keep playing? And were you able to track that to see how long did they keep playing? Because I'm a little worried your later rounds are never tested.
So the playtest sessions themselves were quite short due to the school's time constraints. We did give them the link, and the game was just posted on simmer.io, so it was available to them afterwards. We didn't collect data on whether they kept playing or not, but they were able to.
Go ahead, John.
So riffing off that just a bit, if you folks were deploying this and you wanted to put this in the hands of the kids, how would you suggest that they play this? Because there's a lot there, right? What would be your scenario? How would you have them consume everything you made?
So I think that the best way to consume it is definitely a long experience. So probably there would be a class session to basically get kids into the game and explain the context and make sure everyone is starting out okay. And then they would be free to play it on their own time, in my opinion, because so that you don't use up a lot of class time, because obviously class time is very valuable. Yeah. So I think there's definitely potential for kids to play it on their own time, and that might be the most efficient way for them to consume the content.
Thanks.
Got a question.
One more? Oh, go ahead.
So thinking about your audience and what they know and need to know, what would you say are the most important moments of the game for them learning important things about financial literacy?
So one thing to note is that our teaching mission, our client's transformational mission, is not only about very academic, numerical kind of financial knowledge. He's not that focused on these kind of hard facts necessarily. I mean, that's obviously important, but a big part of what he's trying to transmit is cultural. Basically, it's about your attitude towards financial institutions, and he wants the students to have more trust in financial institutions and see how they can be beneficial and not only potentially dangerous in a sense. So I think the most important parts of the game are where we emphasize the benefits of financial topics. For example, in the loans, we always use the mentor figure, like the uncle, to do this. And so, for example, in the loan round, we explain the basics of loans, and you have to pay back interest. And then we sort of raise the question. We have the player say why would I take out money if I have to pay more back? And then that's an opportunity for our mentor figure to explain all the reasons you would take out a loan. You need to, in order to buy a house or start a business, and transmit that you can get much more back if you take that risk, if you have the knowledge to take it correctly. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, congratulations, team. Good job. You can turn your mics and cameras off. I can take you off spotlight. And if we can get our next team up, activate, ready to be spotlit. Mics and cameras on. See back. All right, that's all of you. Whenever you're ready. You're muted, Joy.
Sorry about that. I muted myself. Let's start over. Good morning, everyone. We're Team Activate. First, we're going to introduce ourselves. Then we're going to show a quick demo and talk about our design thought on each part. Then is the tech and changes section, and we'll also talk about play testing and feedback, then head off and conclusion. So first, about our team. We're a balanced team with team members who have multiple skills. I'm the producer and artist in this team. We have Shenshen as our UI and website designer. Beck is our game designer and sound designer. Taylor is our programmer, and Xinxiu is our UX UI designer. We have Scott and Heather as our faculty instructors. About our client, Inknet is a non-profit organization focused on addressing the lack of women in elected office by building a pipeline of next generation leaders who are poised to flex their political power. And our contact is Christine and Kristen. So Activate is an EDC client project working with Inknet National. By making a visual novel game experience, we hope we can give our user a visual political journey that makes them feel inspiration and engaged. Next, I will pass to Shenshen talk about the demo.
Thanks, Joy. So I'm going to do a quick playthrough video of our demo. The whole demo video tells the story of 4 female college students becoming interested in their political journey. So because of the unfair event that one of their friends in the clique group was injured, which resulted in the cancellation of her sports scholarship. Throughout the game, players make the choice based on the stories. So we can see in the video, there is our selection branch. Our players have to choose between 3 options. Each option will affect the result at the end and whether they go to the minigame or not. Now we're going to show more about our minigames too. Minigames 2 allows the user to cooperate with the girl by making a poster to process the school to reduce tuition, and users can drag the color into the poster to promote the game. So we can see in the video, and then at the end of the game, players will see which political type they belong to based on their choice, and also know more about the Ignite programs they may be interested in based on the result. So that's all about our demo. And next, I will talk about the minigame. In the game design part, we need some section to get the user feel more sense of the engagement and connecting each chapter of our stories. And that's when we came up with the idea to join the minigames to enrich the experience. And we have a total of 3 minigames. This is our minigame 1, and next is about the minigame 2. And we also have our minigame 3. So Each minigame has a different design style, and it providing a better promotion of the development of each chapter. Next page, please. So now I'm taking minigame 2 and 3 as examples. So for the minigame 2, because the players need to make a poster to propose the school to reduce the tuition, the brightness of the color choice of the poster is a little bit dark, just like the mood that the expensive tuition brings to the students. Can you click? Yeah. And next, however, in the third minigame, the beige background and colorful bubbles make the game looks very bright. It can encourage the players to help the girls collect the signatures. So we hope our minigames can help the user increase the sense of engagement and also give them a break between readings to better focus on the following stories. And next, I will pass to the Xinzhou to talk about UI UX.
Thank you, Sansan. In order to create a complete experience, we add character introductions at the beginning, as well as campus leadership and upload to show how characters become campus leaders at the end and they activate in the community after graduation. We create 3 UI designs to differentiate the cutscenes, but each character has a corresponding background color in those cutscenes. Next slide, please. For the upload, we used in-story format to show characters' roles after graduation, which is closer to our target demographic, college women's lifestyles, to share where are they now on social media. Next, please. Next slide. For the video call scenes, we refined the designs to better demonstrate 4 characters on the same screens and adjust the layout to have enough space to show the dialog box and characters. Next slide, please. In the stories, there are moments when the characters are talking about an issue or listening to one character to talk about her experience. So we created 3 different UI for the video call scenes. When more than one character appear in the video call, we added a layer to highlight the talking characters and dim down other windows so that the players can clearly know which characters is talking at the moment. Next slide, please. For the phone chat scenes, we also iterate the interface design based on rounds of testings on mobile and desktop browsers, so the messages could be easy to read on small phone screens as well. Next slide, please. To better present characters' emotional changes through the story, we created 6 facial expressions and gestures for each character to show emotions like happiness, anger, and sadness. Next slide, please. When playing the experience, players can see characters' different emotions based on the dialogue. Now I will pass it off to Beck to talk about the game design part.
Thanks, Xinzhou. So the main gameplay mechanic we decided on was the visual novel experience. As our clients say, politics is personal, especially when it comes to women, as they often do not get involved in politics unless they notice something that affects them or someone they care about personally. Creating a visual novel was ideal because it allowed us to focus on the story and create a relatable experience for the players. We also hope the experience creates a sense of agency and empowerment for these young women because they can make decisions for the characters that impact the rest of the story. Next slide, please. One of our client requirements was to give players personalized Ignite content based on decisions they made throughout the experience. Working with our clients, we came up with the categorization buckets based on levels of engagement using the waiter, swimmer, diver hierarchy, waiter being the person with the smallest level of engagement and diver being those with the highest level of engagement. Upon further iteration, we changed the categorization to include updated language and a link to one of the 3 landing pages curated by our client. Next slide, please. An important part of our game design process was the ability of our client to give feedback on things like dialogue and story. We created the simple Google Slides to help the team communicate internally and with our client. This low-tech solution worked perfectly within the visual novel format since we could have 1 slide equal 1 shot and use a comment function to track bugs and updates. And now I'll pass it off to Joy, who will talk to us more about art.
Thanks, Beck. So our characters are designed in a half flat and half realistic style with shadows and lines. So and a little bit cartoony when we design the faces. So which is an unique style compared with the most visual novel games in the market. So this style is more close to advertising illustration, and with another version of design shows how they looks like after the graduation for the ending epilogue, which can be better fit the atmosphere of the story, also fit the topic, and also attracting our target users. About our environment. For better fit our character design to make a unified art style, we had low poly models from an existing RSS library and also some of our original works in Maya and combine them together and bring to Unreal Engine to have a cell shader to create the outlines of the models and then rendered out in a single frame images. So and combine them with our characters. So the cutscenes. Cutscenes are another way to show how we combine our characters and environments, except the video cutscenes. So based on the story happened behind on each environment, we create more poses and different perspectives to work together with the environment to offering a better visual experience for our users. To offering a more realistic sense of engagement, bring our users into the stories, give them feedbacks after each event to help them feel the connection between each chapters, and also assisting the main storytelling and the mini games to give a better experience. Next, I will pass to Tyler to talk about the tech.
Thank you so much, Joy. As a reminder, to build our visual novel, we use the Monogatari engine. Monogatari is really useful for quickly creating a visual novel that is playable in browsers. Monogatari being a browser-first engine means we can create visual novels that are playable on PC and mobile browsers, which is one of the requirements of our client. When building our mini games, we initially built them in Unity because it was a lot quicker to build them there, so we could get them out to play testers faster. But with the emphasis on mobile browsers, we switched over to HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, as Unity mobile games don't really convert well to mobile browsers. So the reason we took these choices is so that we could quickly play test and get things out, and then using that feedback, iterate much more quickly. Next slide, please. As I said, Monogatari was really great for building visual novels that work well in browsers, especially in mobile browsers. And this was very useful for us early on and continued to be useful for us for the visual novel portion and for iterating on the visual novel portion. However, Monogatari is not great for things besides visual novels. Our engine put a limitation on us in that it was challenging to get our mini games to function within engine as we specifically wanted. Monogatari allows visuals to show up, such as images with text overlaid, but it doesn't allow external game code or game logic to be run inside of it. So when we were doing our visual novel, or rather our mini games, we could show the visuals, but we couldn't run the actual game code in engine itself. Next slide, please. Our solution to that was to have these pop-ups that would have a link that would then open the mini game in a new tab. This way we could be running our own game code alongside Monogatari. This wasn't our preference from a game design perspective. We would have preferred it to be in a single tab. However, the trade-offs of using Monogatari, which was making sure that it worked well in mobile browsers, using a mobile first or a browser first engine, and then being able to quickly iterate and get things out to our playtesters, we decided that the trade-offs were worth using Monogatari, and it was okay that our mini games would have to be in a new tab on the same window. Next slide, please. Because our mini games were being made outside of any sort of engine, they were built outside of Monogatari, and when we were switching to make sure that it worked well on mobile browsers, we had to build them again outside of Unity. The visuals aren't what we imagined at first. They're a bit more simplistic than we would have liked, and if we had more time, we would focus on fixing up these visuals on the mini games. However, we think that given the time constraints and given the constraints of our engine, these mini games suffice and do a good job of getting across the metaphors we were hoping to go for with each experience. For example, in this one, you're building a GoFundMe by putting together a puzzle that shows the GoFundMe being built. At this point, I'll pass it off to Beck to talk about some of our non-technical challenges.
Thanks so much, Tyler. So creating a story that was genuine, relatable, and not too controversial was quite a challenge for us. It took us a long time until halves to finalize our story arc with our clients. which caused a lot of our timeline to get pushed back. And if we were to do it again, we would focus on getting our story arc finalized before half, so we would have more time to iterate on things like dialogue. There were a few times later in the semester when our client requested we change things in our story, but we didn't have the bandwidth to redo a lot of the assets. So perhaps if we put more effort earlier into a modular pipeline, that could have helped as well. Another challenge we faced was the lack of political expertise on our team. None of us consider ourselves particularly politically savvy, and we had to rely heavily on the expertise of our clients and outside research. Luckily, we had the opportunity to playtest with Ignite Women, who were able to provide us with incredibly helpful feedback and advice for us. Next slide, please. Some important feedback we got while playtesting was that the dialogue was not the most realistic of undergraduate women who were our target demographic. We made sure to get feedback on it from our target audience to ensure they saw themselves reflected in the dialogue. Another important form of feedback we received was that the story didn't feel the most real or genuine, that it was trying to solve too hard an issue in a one-time 5 to 15-minute experience. We accommodated for this by adding the cutscenes and dialogue throughout the experience that reminds players that what our characters are doing is hard work and should expect to be working for a while before they can make meaningful change. We really wanted our experience to feel genuine, and that was a big focus on playtesting for us. Our target audience is very smart and can spot insincerity a mile away. Through playtesting and iterations, we were able to get our experience to a point where we feel confident it treats this topic with genuine sincerity. Next slide, please. So we are currently in the process of handing over all of our assets to our client, including code, art, and sound assets. We have created thorough documentation to help our clients work through some of the more tech-heavy sections, like how to change dialogue or add a branching scene. One of our client requirements was the ability to make changes to the experience after the semester ends. So we have time set up this week to walk through all of our hierarchy and setup to ensure that we have done our due diligence in this handoff to help our clients have a smooth transition. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, we are Team Activate, and we worked with Ignite National to create a one-time 5 to 15-minute motivational experience that encourages young undergraduate women to engage in politics and provides the player with personalized Ignite programming to continue their political journey. Thank you so much, and we are now open for questions.
All right, congratulations, team, on completing your final presentation. Any questions, throw them in the chat or raise your hands, and John, go for it.
So I confess, last time I played it, I did not get a chance to do your mini games. So these must have tailed in at the very end. Did you get a chance to test them? And can you talk a little more about that?
So we were able to play test some of our mini games from the Unity prototypes that we had created earlier in the semester, but just when we were sending out the link, we weren't able to really put those in. We definitely did not get a chance to play test the mini games as much as we would have liked. To be fully transparent with that, I think just with kind of the challenges that Tyler was describing about getting them to be fully embedded in the prototype, took us a long time. So we have not like fully play tested that as well as we would have liked. We've gotten like maybe 1 or 2 sets of eyes on it.
So just real quick, can you explain to me what exactly do the mini games add, and if they do not work, is it deteriorating the experience at all? I missed that part. Okay.
Yeah, of course. So what the mini games are trying to add is just to help break up the story and kind of like abstract these things that the girls are doing like in real life. It's supposed to be kind of not only a little bit educational, like to show, hey, if you're in a situation like that, here are some possible steps you could take. You could set up a GoFundMe, you could write a petition, get a bunch of signatures, you could plan a rally. These are things you could do. And then we abstract them in like a simple form to make it easy and motivational to say, hey, you know, maybe things like this aren't as hard as we think they could be. And then also break up the story so it's not just a whole lot of like text overload, and we don't expect our players to just be like clicking fast through it, ignoring the text in the story.
Got it. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Mo, question?
Yeah, it was an interesting decision that you kind of play as 4 characters. You don't get to play as one specific character. I think you got a lot of feedback last time through on that note. Can you talk about more about that decision, sticking to it, and why you did?
Sure, I can take this. So as our client mentioned, that politics is personal, but it's also about a group. And our client also want to offer the young women who's interested in politics a feeling of their political powers and their political home. It's more like a community. So that's why we choose to have 4 characters instead of 1. Because sometimes the politics are more about like helping each other. You need to know how to like use your power to help others and know when and where to looking for help. So that's a important process for everyone who's interested in politics to have their first step, to know more people and help with each other.
Okay, that's time. Thanks so much, team. Good job and congratulations. If you can turn
Thanks,
your
everybody.
mics and cameras off, we'll get you on Spotlight and then we'll get React up and going. They can turn their cameras on.